What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fab, Freddie Fox, America's Big Brother, and this is the Saturday Night Sit Down. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Fab, Freddie Fox, America's Big Brother, and today I got the very, very special guest, my cousin Victor. What's going on, bro?
Chilling, man. I just got off of work, so I'm just ready. I'm just blessed to be here with you.
Nah, man, I appreciate it, man. It's been a long time, and I haven't seen you in God knows how long, man. It's been a minute, man. It's been a minute.
Been like over 7-8 years now.
Yeah, man. It's crazy, man. And our lives definitely taking us in different ways, man. But it's very, very good to be able to sit down and talk with you tonight, man.
Definitely, man. I was just excited to actually like be able to reach out to you and still be able to have that vibe with you. You know what I'm saying?
No, definitely, man. Family's always family, man. No matter what we do, whatever distance and all that stuff changes, man. But we always gonna have that love, man. So thank you so much for. I know it's late, man. Right now, it's just the latest I've done an episode right now. It's 1:30 in the morning. You just got off of work. But man, we had to get this conversation going, man. So thank you so much, man.
I appreciate you.
So like I tell everybody, man, when I do this show and stuff like that, really it's just trying to reach out to this younger generation, educate them, try to help guide them and really help find their way into manhood or adulthood. I'm as sure as we all struggle, we all go through different trials and tribulations, and society and everything tells us how to be one way. When don't got to be like that, man. Everybody has a different story. Everybody goes through different things, and we should be able to handle and feel every single emotion that we need to, because we're men, but we're human beings too at the end of the day. You know what I mean? Like, in all humans, we got to go through emotions. We got feelings. We got ups and downs and all that stuff. So we have to join together and help each other get through those things, So as I always do to everybody else, my very first question to you, man, to you, what do you think is some of the main characteristics or qualities that it takes to be a good man or a good person?
To be honest with you, it stems down from family, bro. Like, it's always gonna be, you gotta respect, you gotta always show love, and you gotta just be a stand-up person, be true to who you are.
Yeah, that's a big thing, man. Everybody is really being you. I know, growing up, everybody is trying to live up to a certain image or a certain persona, stuff like that, because that's what the world around us is telling us to be, or how we're supposed to act and how we're supposed to do things. It was very rare where we were encouraged to be unique and be yourself and be an individual. It's coming out to that more so nowadays, but I think it's because of all of us who went through that, of being suppressed, of trying to be something that we're not, really going against the grain. Like, yo, everybody has to be their own individual, and especially now with social media and all these things going around, like, there are so many more people like you, and you have access to so many more people that are like you. You don't have to be ashamed to be who you are,
No, definitely. Like, it's the way we grew up is different. You had to conform. You always had to fit in that little box.
Right.
And now I love it now, because you're able to be outside that box and draw circles if you want to draw circles. So it's like it's just weird how when we were younger, it's always like, nah, you got to do this. You have to be that way. And now it's like, you want purple hair? Have purple hair.
Right.
It's weird. It's for the younger generation, it's probably fun. But for me, when I see certain things like that, it's like, that doesn't fit the norm for me.
Yeah. We're all supposed to, do as I say, not as I do, type of thing,
Yeah.
So I mean, a part about that, like you said, being yourself and being your own individual and stuff, is just being a good person. I mean, I think also when it comes to being a good person, a good man, we got to have good morals, and a good sense of being. So to you, what do you think are some of your important morals that you carry on a day-to-day basis?
And just being true to yourself. Like, try to always, like, don't have your emotions on your sleeves, but be aware of, like, what's going on and being able to express yourself without being rash. Like, that's just one of my things for me. Like, growing up, I was always hot-headed and, like, short-tempered, and I've had to learn how to, like, pull back from that. And learning to do that, you humble yourself. And that's, like, one of those things to me, like, having the good morals come into play on humbling yourself, because you have to learn how to do certain things. Like your parents teach you respect and honor and to love, and each person shows love in a different way. Each person
Right,
shows
right.
respect in a different way. So the way I might show you respect might not be the same way you interpret respect. So it's like one of those things for me. Like that's one of my biggest things for me is always being true to who you are and trying to be as open minded as possible.
Yeah, no, and I think you touched on something big there too that I've seen a lot with this generation is having a short fuse or just being extremely hot headed or quick to react. I've seen so many young kids lose their lives over senseless stuff, stepping on your shoe or saying something the wrong way or wearing the wrong colors or, talking to somebody girl. You know what I mean? Like things that really are so trivial, but at the end of the day it ends up somebody costing their life. Now you said that too, how to learn and control that stuff. What are some of the things that you've learned that helped you, I guess, become more level-headed or control your temper and anger?
It just came down to like growing up. Like there's a certain point in your life where you have to just like stop being a kid, stop worrying about all this extra stuff and keeping up with the Joneses. It's just like for me, it was I remember I was downtown Stanford on the South End, and I was hanging out with a family member of ours. I'm not gonna give a name, but we was
Mm-hmm.
out there chilling, and someone pressed him, and I saw how he reacted, and it wasn't what I would do. Like what I saw him do was like growing up. I was like, you punked out. Like it's not cool. And he turned around and told me, he's like, sometimes it's just better to let it go because now that person's gonna see that he don't phase you. You
Right,
let him
right.
win. When he can control your temper, your attitude, and all this other good stuff, he wins because now he knows he
Mm-hmm.
can control you. So
Yeah.
why give him that power? And ever since then, I started realizing like some of the stuff that I grew up learning is backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So I pulled back on the reins on those things, like getting mad if someone scuffed the side of my shoe, bumped me in the hallway. I was always quick to always be like, excuse you.
Right, right.
Now I'm just like, all right, sorry, man. I was in your way. I apologize. Like, but it just comes down to you don't want people to have power over you.
No, and I think that's very key, man. I've been doing like a lot of I guess self-development and reading all those things, and it's just something that a lot of people say is that. And that's one thing that I'm insistent in teaching my daughter. She understands now. She's about to be 6 and in like 19 days. It's crazy, man. Like, I got a 6-year old, but you know, I, I pick her up from school and she'll say, "Oh, so and so this happened at school and I got so angry." I'm like, "Why?" Or so and so said this to me and it got me sad. Why? I tell her, baby, you're the one that controls your feelings. You decide whether you're happy, whether you're sad, whether you're, happy, whatever you want to feel, it's up to you. Don't let anybody else make you feel a certain way or control their ways because then they control you, they own you. And nobody owns you but yourself. So that's one of the things, I guess one of the morals, I guess, that coming out of that, that's why I'm touching on that. I teach my daughter is that, master your feelings. The quicker you can master your own feelings, you'll be able to do so much more in your own life because nobody dictates what's going to happen to you but yourself. And that's really one of the ultimate forms of self-control. Is really and like you said that too, like understanding your feelings. And I think that's something that we all need to um be okay with. If we're sad, why are we sad? What's making us sad? Why are we feeling this way? Ask yourself those questions so that you understand, how you got to that situation and how you can avert that situation or make it better for yourself without having to rely on anybody else. And it takes a lot of that.
Yeah, there's actually a good book out there for people who want to know like how to adapt to these feelings or adapt to certain like situations. It's called the meaning of feelings. It's a small little book, it's about 32 pages, and it explains like each feeling and how you can cope with each feeling.
Hmm.
And that's a book that I used to read back in high school to help me like adjust to understand and focus and regroup when I got into like certain situations where I couldn't quite tell, like, was I really angry at this person, or was it just because, you know, I did something to him or he did something to me?
Right,
And it
right.
really like breaks things down for you.
No, that's what's up, man. Like I think it's like very, very important to control your feelings. I'm gonna definitely have to look into that and see because I'm all about that, and it's trying to teach her those things. Because I remember too, like one of the things that kind of got to me is that I used to fight all the time, you know, and in the middle school and stuff like that, growing up, and most of the times it was because somebody was saying stuff about my mom's. You know what I mean? They talking jack about my mom or saying some comment about her, and I'm snapping and I'm just beating the brakes off of them. And then you know, got to a point where my mom asked me one time, she was like, you know, why did you get into a fight with this person? I was like, well, because they said you was a hoe and you was a bitch. And she was like, am I though? I was like, no. She was like, all right, then why are you worried about it? And that
Yeah.
was one of the kind of moments where I was just like, okay, that I guess I was like the moment I realized that people are trying to manipulate me, you know, and to believe in something that's not right, not true, and they're getting these reactions out of me and winning the
Yeah.
battle, like you said, you know.
No, but it's not only that. Like it's the fact that you have, you know, a lot of respect for your mother. You have a lot of
Yeah,
pride in your family, and that's the one of those things that again, like we were raised to be that way. Like the prominent Puerto Rican family, Hispanic families, we were
right,
always
right.
taught to always defend ours, and you did, but they always found a way to make you feel bad about it.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
You know, and so again, like I don't want to talking about your mom or anything, but you know, you gotta learn to adjust those, and that's also too. Like I had to go through like anger management and stuff like that because people were like teasing me and all these things and having to cope and face those things. But it was also, I think, another part that I didn't. We were trained not to really deal with our feelings. Like if you had a
Yeah.
certain emotion, you got to bury it. You know what I'm
You got to
saying?
suppress
Like
the hell out of it.
cover it up. You know what I mean? Like be a man, man up, cover it up. You ain't supposed to feel anything.
Yeah.
And it's I always say that, and I mean we rage out, right? We have these moments where we snap, you know, and ultimately what I come to or what I say to myself is that when you go into rage, that's all those feelings that you were pent up, hiding, emotions that you putting away, all coming out at once.
Yeah. It
You know what I
definitely
mean?
is.
Like
It's
it's just
like
a huge eruption.
yeah, it's like having a Coke bottle and shaking it and then popping the cap off of it. Everything's coming out at once. So it's like
Yeah,
I used to do that all the time, and that hasn't led me to the best of places.
no, it definitely will not, man. And going on like these things, 'cause I know we're talking about like with families and the importance of our dads and stuff like that. For you, you know, what was your relationship with your dad like?
Uh, Rocky, I had the best of both worlds. So the man you know to be my dad is
Mhm.
actually my stepfather.
Right, right.
He was been in my life since 5 until he passed away about 3 years ago. And then I had my biological dad, and he was, you know, typical Hispanic male, like hard, like tough love and all that. Like my father who raised me was more of a compassionate type of person. He would always try to understand you and let you express yourself without turning into like a violent person. Like if he saw you were getting to that point, he'd always try to like, all right, take a step back, breathe a little bit, relax. You know, it's nothing to get worked up over. My real dad, he just like, you got to learn how to deal with it because eventually I'm not going to be around for you and you're going to have to learn how to deal with it. So I kind of got the best of both worlds when it comes to like parenting dad sides, but my biological father wasn't really there very much for me.
And I guess like now, do you remember? I guess like up until five, like a time before that where he wasn't there. Like, did it make you feel a certain way that he wasn't around, or you had that kind of relationship, or was it just you didn't really see the transition?
I to be honest with you, like since I was a kid, it's always like I'm gonna come and pick you up, and then he never came and picked me up. So it's like after a while, I got immune to it. It's like, oh, I'm coming to pick you up. Well, I'm gonna go make plans with this person because I know you're not showing up. But I always had my stepdad, like my pops. I always had him to rely on. Like, oh, he didn't show up. Oh well, come, we'll do something.
Right, right,
You know? So it's like where one fails, the other one picks up the slack. So it's like it's like it was a win-win for me.
right. Because you come pick me up and we good, we hang out. And if you don't, I'm still gonna hang out anyway. You know.
Yeah.
So
So it's like I always, like I said, like it was more of a it didn't matter because I already knew the outcome because he's done it so many times before.
yeah, yeah. Now, like I said, with your stepdad growing up and having that relationship with him, and you know him teaching you the soft things, what do you think is this? You know, one of the most important things you think you learned from him?
Oh man. Um, the other day I was on your Instagram page and you said always shoot for the moon because if you miss, you're always amongst stars.
Yeah, yeah.
That reminded me of him because he always told me, he's like, I'd rather you try to hit a home run and get out than to hit a line drive and get on base. And that just reminded me of him when you said that because that was always his thing. Like, I'd rather see you attempt and fail than to play it safe and succeed.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I love those analogies, man, and just really encourage you to try because I've come to realize more and more that we are the ones who determine how far we're going to go in life. You know, nobody else. You know, it's all about your mentality, your mindset, you know, what limits you set for yourself. Like I've been saying this for weeks now, man. We're bound to the boundaries we create in our own mind.
Yeah.
You know, so wherever we set that bar, that's as far as we're gonna go. It's important to keep pushing that and keep testing ourselves. I think was it not almost and Matthew McConaughey. It was Matthew McConaughey, right? He was doing a speech and stuff, and they asked him, you know, who's your biggest idol, who's your biggest role model, or whatever, you know. And he said, me in 10 years, you know, and 10 years later come on, he said, well, it's me in another 10 years. You know, I'm never going to chase, I'm never going to be that person, but I always got something to drive and push towards, you know, so
Yeah.
he's constantly pushing that bar of where he is to reach different levels of excellence. And I think that's something that everybody should do in their own lives, you know, really don't settle for what you have in front of you, you know, whatever you want, whatever you think you're capable of, you're able to do it. If you're just willing to put in the work, try and have that right mentality, you know?
Definitely, definitely.
Now, I always talking about this too, and I definitely want to see pictures of your little girl, man. But now that you know you're a daddy yourself, and you have her now, she's like what 2? You said right?
Should be 2 in January.
She's gonna be 2 in January. So I mean, early on, I started thinking about things that I wanted to teach my children and kind of like start creating a blueprint. Do you have anything in mind that are some important values or things that you want to make sure that she grows up with?
Uh, Literally, this is like the core values that most prominent Hispanic family have. You know, love and respect. Like, I want her to be her own person. So I
Mm-hmm.
like even now I'd let her venture off and do whatever she likes to do.
Right, right.
But I'm always there to make sure that I can catch her when she falls, and you know, teach her no, like rights from wrong, like the typical parent things to do. But I just want to make sure, like, I want her to understand that being different is okay.
Mm. Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like I said, like there's days like she understands like putting on your shoes. If she gets it, she'll put her foot out. But if you tell her to go pick out shoes, she'll go pick out 2 different pairs of shoes. You know, to be home, it's cool. Like I don't have a problem with it because you're being an individual. You're showing me that you're different.
Right, right.
You know, when we go out, you have to have a matching pair. Like those are things that she understands. But I really want her to focus on just being herself and never changing for anyone.
Yeah, no, and that is some because I remember that too. When my daughter's growing, well, she's still growing up and getting bigger and stuff. But when she was little, she would watch shows and like Chinese or like different things and all these whatever she wants to expose herself to. I'm just allowing her to do that to help her create her own individuality. You know,
Yeah.
because everybody's different. Like today, I caught her, and you definitely got to be on top of these things. But we were sitting down at the table for dinner, and she says, I'm so grateful we're sitting down here like a normal family. And I said, baby, there's no such thing as normal. Okay, don't put a label on it. We can say we're a happy family and like that, but your normal and my normal and our normal might be different from somebody else's normal. So
Yeah.
there's nothing that is quote unquote normal in this world. Because I don't want her because that's already I think that's like passing judgment on somebody. You know what I mean? Like if she goes somebody else and they're not sitting that way, well, that's not what a normal family does. It's normal to them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's what they do.
Yeah. See, when people tell me normal, I just think typical
Right.
is the word that I think they're trying to use, because in society, typical family is, mom, dad, 2.5 children,
Right. Right.
white picket fence, always eating dinner at this time, having breakfast at this time. It's like a typical American family. And like you said, like you don't want the label,
Right.
but
Right.
it's always
Yeah.
good to have that kind of structure as well.
Yeah. No, definitely. And I've learned that from I give it up to one of my best friends growing up, the Dan Welton and his family, the Weltons. Man, I was over there all the time, and it was for me the first time sitting down at the table with everybody there, like on a
Yeah.
Sunday night having dinner. You know what I mean? Like Saturday night having dinner, and to me it wasn't normal. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I would grab our plate of food. Everybody went off in their own different directions, and that was it. We ate, bring our plates, and clean our stuff and put it in the sink. So it was very different to me, and I enjoyed it. We all sat there and they asked me about my day. How did it go? What did I do in school? And I was like, they care about what happened to me in a sense. Not that my parents didn't, but it was done
I
differently. But
get
to
what you're
be in that
saying.
kind of environment, it was like, wow, like so that's something that I wanted to make typical for myself.
Yeah.
My wife and my kids. We come home, we have dinner, we sit down, no TV. Hey, how was your day? What did you do today? How are you? What are you feeling? Creating that structure for ourselves, because it's something that I think is important, because it really opened up more of a communication between me and their parents, and I want that with my kids too, to be able to come and talk to me about anything and everything they want to, not having that fear.
That breaks down to like core values. Like that's something you do for your family. That's like something you value, that quality time.
Yeah, no, definitely, because I want. No, it's like that too. Like we're growing up in a strong Spanish family. Like you're not supposed to talk back. You're not supposed to have a different view or opinion.
Yeah.
Is this is what I said. This is what it is. Go do it, or be this way or do that. So kind of I guess suppressing their individuality in a sense without really knowing it. 'Cause I don't think that's not what they're intending to do. They want you to be respectful, but in a way that they think is respectful and that they see, or that what they was taught to them.
See, when you talk, all right, to me, when someone said like that, the way we grew up, it was more of a, I don't know about for you, but I'm speaking for me. It was more of a respect is fear,
Yeah, yeah,
and I don't want that for her. Like,
yeah.
you know, I want her to be able to feel comfortable and come to me and ask me the dumbest questions. Like, I don't care. Um, there's a poet named Javion Johnson. I'll send you a link to him. He's got a
Yeah.
poem about him and his nephew, and how his nephew asks him a million questions a day. Like, why is the sky blue? Why is the road black? Why is water wet? Like, and he goes on and tries to answer all these questions for him. And then he realizes that he's not asking questions to know the answers. He's just asking the questions because he wants to ask questions. He's comfortable with asking these ridiculous questions to him.
Mm.
And that's kind of what I want. Like when I see her, I just want her to know, like, it's okay to ask a question, because the way I was grew up is you ask a question, you're dumb. You should know the answer. And I don't want her to ever feel that she's dumb or slow or whatever word under the sun that people want to use because you asked a question you didn't know the answer to. But how else do you educate yourself? How else do you grow? Is if you don't ask these questions.
Yeah, man, that kind of like that kind of hits kind of close to home to me right now, man, because my daughter is definitely really at that age, and it's so there's no book on parenting, and we're all learning how to do this stuff, man. And my daughter, what I've noticed with my daughter when it comes to like schoolwork and stuff, especially when I'm near with her, is that she'll ask questions or make mistakes on purpose, knowing that I know she knows this stuff. And it's kind of tricky because like it is like school. Like I want to make sure that because she's currently in like IEP and all these things at school. Getting like I guess help on certain things, and it's crazy because in some of these meetings that I have with these teachers, they're like, "Oh, Nyla doesn't know, certain sounds of certain letters or whatever, or something like that." And in the back of my mind, I was like, I've been drilling her the alphabet since she was like 2. Like we know the sounds, we know the things. Like I know that when we're home with her, she can do these things. She just doesn't want to show people what she's capable of sometimes. And I don't want that to like hinder her either. And then sometimes like me when we're doing homework and stuff, she'll like, what's 2 plus 2? She'll be like 3. I'm like, nah, come on, you know this. You know what I mean? Like trying to be funny or be silly. Or like you said, ask questions that I know she already knows the answers to. And it's like, well, why are you asking that question? And I guess I definitely want to hear that poem to see how that goes about, because I don't want to um crush her curiosity, or you know what I mean, like, or make her not be okay to ask those questions, because it is important to ask questions. I'm gonna be comfortable with that. So that's a little, it's got me thinking a little bit, and being a little self-conscious of myself and my parenting
Not,
techniques
don't
that
let her do that because it's you as a parent know your child. You know what I'm saying? So like when you say you already know the answer to it, for me it's more of a, well, let me hear what you think it is. So
right,
you
right.
can see where her mindset is at, and then if it's slightly off, you can veer it back on track and
Yeah, yeah.
explain in a different process and like how you get to it. You know what I'm saying? So like when you said like what's the 2 plus 2, and she'll look at you and say 3, like it's not a, like she knows she's wrong, but to see if you're gonna correct her and like how you're gonna correct her type of way,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's more of a let's have fun type of way
Yeah, yeah.
instead of of like I know you know I'm wrong and I'm doing it just to piss you off type of way. It's more of like let's have fun. Like let's like she wants to learn in a different way.
Yeah, and I know that like it's crazy how similar she is to me, and I can see a lot of myself when I was her age, when doing certain things. So I know we learn differently. Like I don't learn by reading. I'm just not that type
Yeah.
of person. I'm hands-on, physical through experience, watching and all these things, and that's how I know she learns. And it's I guess it's tricky too, like on that stay-at-home dad part too, trying to, especially with all this COVID stuff, becoming a teacher, and having to teach her math and skills and all these things, like I guess in a certain curriculum, and then trying to find the way that works for her. Um, it's been a bit challenging, and it also me, gets me very, I guess, like I want to say, at least a little bit of depression and sadness, because I guess part of me, I'm like, did I fail her in some sort of way in school that she needs to get this help, or that I mean, like, did I do something wrong? Like, what could I have done better? Like, what are different experiences? And then you start to kind of like doubt yourself, because
Yeah.
you always want to do what's right for your kids. But you're never gonna know what that is. It's all pretty much trial and error.
Yeah. But also, what's right for one kid isn't right for the next kid.
Right.
So you just like not you, but as a parent, the parent needs to figure out in like a small way on what works best for that child they have. Like for instance, me, I'm a hands-on person. I've been a chef, like I told you before, for almost over 16 years. I didn't learn it from reading a book. Someone had to break it down to me. Someone had to show me step for step, like what this ingredient is, what this tastes like, how this is supposed to feel, and what this makes when it's done. When you talk math, I'm great at math. Like I've
Mm,
always been good at math, and I've always found little tricks and traits to like figure out how to do it.
right.
And one thing for me was always doing the tally mark thing. Like if you need to find out how many groups of two fit into 16. We do multiplication. We all know it's 8, but someone her age doesn't know that off the top of their head. So what I would do is I would make 16 slash like tally marks and then circle 2, then another 2, then another 2, then another 2, and then you just count how many groups there are of 2 in 16 and you figure that out makes 8. Like little tricks that you have to pick up and learn, like,
Yeah, yeah.
their type of things, but like that might not work for her. It might not work for my daughter. You know what I'm saying? It might be something different. So like you just don't think you fail her in any way because you're doing your best at something you're not used to. Well, it's not the
Right,
norm for you. You're not used to being a teacher. You're supposed to be dad, and you're supposed to help her get to the next level. But you didn't educate yourself to be a teacher.
right, right.
So you can't feel like you failed her in any way because at the end of the day, you're doing your best, and your best for her is like the world.
Yeah, no, man. And I see like certain things like went with my daughter. I may have not I'm not gonna be able to teach her math or something like that or like in a training. But my goal, like I always said to me and my wife, is like I want to teach her how to be a good person.
Yeah,
Right. That's what I'm good at. I'm good at being a good person. And I know I can teach that and stuff. And I know like when people like at school when I'm like, oh, I'm Nyla's dad. I'm like, oh Nyla, oh my God, we love Nyla so much. She's so sweet, she's so kind, and she has such great manners and this, that, or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I did that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like, that's one of those things where like I know that I was able to do that. Like even just today, like we went to my mom's house. When my mom was cleaning and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, I'll help you, grandma. And she grabbed a broom and she just started sweeping. And we don't have her sweep here at the house like that. Like we don't, have her do those things. But she seen her grandmother doing something. She's like, I want to help her. I want to do something nice. So she swept, she mopped, she picked up, she did that. You know what I mean? Like all on her own. And it's like my mom looked at me and I'm like, I know I'm doing something right. You know what I mean? Like she's being a good person, thoughtful, caring, and loving. You know what I mean? Like, and that's where I know I can help her succeed in life.
but you've always been towards me. You've always been that type of person. Like you're my cousin. Like I've always known you to be loving and caring. Like I cannot see you. Like just the other day, I haven't seen you in over 8 years, 7, 8 years now, and it felt like we just picked up. Like we just saw each other downtown.
Yeah, man, and that's I said that's why I love doing this and being able to connect because I know I'm such a people person and all those things, man. So I'm so happy and blessed knowing that I can teach my daughter how to be me. And that's also one of the things too, like when I like again, not trying to sound conceited in any way, but I know that I'm a wonderful person. I know I'm a genuinely caring, loving person. And I've always said to myself, like, and there was a lot more people like me in the world, it'd be a lot better place. And I said, they have kids, man. I'm going to be able to help add more of those people into this world who are caring, loving, kind, and willing to help others when they need to be helped. So that's like one of the greatest achievements so far, seeing my daughter be that kind of person.
Yeah, and it's not being conceited, and like because your main focus is making sure your kids are this way, and not trying to say you're trying to form them or put them in a box or in any sense of the way, but you're also changing adults when you with your podcast because I don't know how many kids are listening into it, listening or viewing your podcast, but it's probably 90% adults.
Yeah, majority. Yeah, I guess looking at my age range, it's about like 28 to 35.
Yeah.
like my highest age group that I've been listening and stuff, which I know that, and I think that there's part of that too. Again, it's not meant to like for toddlers, more so I guess like teenagers or people in their 20s or things like that coming up, because we're at that, you're at that transition point in your life. You know, you're not a kid anymore, but you're not quite an adult. You're trying to find yourself and where to go. And that's how I'm trying to help and guide people into, you know, becoming better versions of themselves.
Yeah. Like what was it the other day I saw the elephant
Oh
in
yeah,
the
yeah,
room.
yeah.
You don't understand that, like, for me that hit home because I've how can I say, like, I fit the mold that I let people form me into.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I haven't been the greatest person in the world. Like, I've never been this calm. I've done a lot of wrong, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I have allowed myself to adapt to that person
Right.
and be comfortable and happy with that person that wasn't who I was. And like you said, at a certain point in your time, like 25, 26, I'm 34 now. It took me a long time to get to where I'm at,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and learn how to be okay and comfortable in my own skin. Like, I grew up in, the east side of Stanford. I chill in the south end of Stanford, and you know the south end and how it is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I've done that for years. I'd move away, come back, still go back to the same stomping ground, the south end of Stanford, and did what I always did. And I allowed myself to become a product of that environment because that's what people always told me I was gonna be. Like, you're always gonna be that person. You're never going to
Right.
be. And I eventually just conformed to it, and just was like comfortable, and like I took it as a compliment at points in time. Like, oh, you're just gonna be a street kid your whole life. Cool. I'm happy with that. Thank you. Like, as long as you can see me, I'm happy.
Right, right.
And it now it's more of a, oh, you're always gonna be that. No, I'm not that person anymore. It's like I've changed a lot. You can know about me. Stop judging me off of what I look like because I have a bunch of tattoos that you probably think are gang related, which none of them are. Like when I got this neck tat, that was my mom's biggest fear. She's like, "Oh, people are just gonna think you're a gang member." They can think what they want, but when you look at it, you can definitely tell there's no gang resemblance whatsoever. It's literally, I got a pocket watch with a rosary around it, um, with my daughter's time of birth, date of birth, and her name.
That's what's up.
You know, and I want to. That's how I express myself. Like,
You're
I'm an
proud. Yeah.
artist in many ways. Like, I draw, I chef it up. Like, that's how I can express myself. And my canvas for me is my body. So I anytime I accomplish something or I feel a certain way, I will put it on me. And this is one of my greatest accomplishments in my life, my daughter. So I put it where everyone can see,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and like I said, I'm tatted everywhere now. Like, from the last time you saw me till now, I'm like
Damn.
everywhere. Like, I got like a literally a whole half sleeve done. I've got my back, my neck, my calf, like, but they all represent a story and a part of my
Definitely.
life, you know. And this is just one great story for me. So, like, I'm not even done. Like, I have like this whole piece that I want done. So the next part of it is going to be my daughter's footprint, literally like on my throat, and then her handprint. When she's old enough, I'm going to have her write her name, and then I'm going to write "Our Journey Begins," and that's done at that point. And then if I have more kids, I'll figure out what I'm going to do for them. But these are all my little stepping stones to who I've become.
No.
So like I have this one right here. It's puzzle pieces turning into a hand, and then God's hand.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I'm a broken person. We all are. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right.
It's just finding the right pieces to connect to be closer to one person. And
That's what's
then
up. I
that's
like
just
that. I like
how
that.
I see it. So it's like I have to go through my own journey to figure out how to make myself a whole.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
not every piece is gonna fit at that time, but you learn to make it fit. So it's like I had to go through all the pain, all the sorrow, like the numerous times in jail for stupid shit. Like I had to do that in order to become who I am, because now that I have my daughter, I've changed that all. Like I'm not worried about how much money I make, even though I'm worried about how much money I make, but not where it's coming from. Like I'm not worried about having the best shoes. I'm not worried about having the flyest gear. It's not about that for me. Now it's more of how much time can I spend at home and still make money.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And being a chef, you put in a lot of hours. So on an average week for me, I'm working about 65 hours a week, you know, but I make I make sure that my job knows that my main priority is her. So I won't come into work until 4 o'clock, and I'll work from 4 to 1 without giving you a hard time every day. But in return, you're giving me 6 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock, to like 3:30 with my daughter. So it's like it's a win-win.
It's a trade-off. Yeah, yeah.
It's a good trade-off. Like yeah, like you said, it's a good trade-off. But it's always like in the back of my mind, like we were talking about earlier, trying to get this company to just buy recipes off me for the rest of my life, just so I could spend like every day with her.
Yeah, no, man, and that's the goal, man. I think, and I'm gonna tie into that too in just a second because I just want to go back to your puzzle tattoo. I had said it, and I made a reel or a TikTok earlier on, like one of my first ones. But I said, one of the greatest abilities is being able to break yourself down and build yourself back up again. It's just sometimes you end up with a few extra pieces or missing a few. And I think that's the thing too. Like, we got to get rid of things that, we maybe once held were important, thought that were cool, and get rid of those and pick up other trades and learn. But it is a wonderful ability. And I think everybody is capable of it if they really try to transform who they were to be who they want to be. It's just a matter of making that decision. So that is a very beautiful, beautiful tattoo there. That's a very meaningful piece, man.
Appreciate
I
that.
like that. I like that.
Thank you.
So it's so important that we all grow and try to be there. And I think, like you said, tying back to the situation with your dad, which I've noticed with a lot of people, who didn't have that connection with their dad, or who weren't there often enough, know what it's like, and they can't do that to their kid, so they kind of overcompensate. You know what I
Oh man,
mean?
tell me about it. Like, you hit the nail on the head with that one. Because when my daughter was born, my dad would call me, like my biological dad would call me every day, checking up on her. And he's like, "You got to be there for her. You got to do everything. You got to do it right." It's just like I don't want to disrespect, but in the back of my head, I'm just like, so do everything the opposite of you,
Yeah, yeah,
and that's what I do. Like going back to what I said to you before, it's like I had the best of both worlds because I had that one compassionate man, and then I had this one stern, like hard-headed man, and I just try to fuse the both of them to make me,
yeah,
because growing up, like I said, like it was tough for me because I didn't understand like how to deal with emotion and how to cope with it. And now it's more of I find myself like when I'm with her, when I'm with my daughter, I don't know if you done this, but like I do this a lot, and I've been doing it a lot recently. Um, just because of the fact of the whole situation I told you about, how I just got emergency custody of my daughter
Mm-hmm.
because me and my baby moms was having issues with each other, and it never got physical or anything like that. It's just we just didn't click anymore. And more recently, I've been when I first brought her home, it was Easter Sunday. I brought her to my mom's house, and I would play music to put her to sleep, and we would play like random songs. Like for me, like I grew up listening to like heavy metal and rock, and now I'm into like jazz and funk. Like I just learned to like change things up and enjoy. And I used to play a lot of John Mayer for her, so she would fall asleep to John Mayer all the time. Like I would carry her around and rock her to sleep and sing John Mayer songs to her. And the other day I was driving in my car and a John Mayer song came on, but I was alone. So I felt comfortable with being in my emotion, and I just started crying because it just brought me back to the times where it's like my happiest moments. You know, like my daughter was born 2.5 months early, like I told you, and I had to like go to work and rush to the hospital after work, and not knowing certain things and trying to figure out when she can come home, because home isn't home without her now, because I know she's there.
Right,
And
right.
I can honestly tell you, like, my happiest moments in life have always are around her now. Like graduating high school and becoming a chef and all that other stuff is like meaningless to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like those are good achievements for me when I was a kid. Like as a man, as an adult, you know, even if I had her younger, it would still be one of my greatest achievements in my life. But the day she was born was probably like the proudest time for me, where I can say I'm really proud of myself. And then it comes down to the day the doctor calls us and tells us we can take her home. Like I broke down, bro. Like I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I've learned to just deal with it. Like,
Yeah, you gotta feel it. You gotta
like
feel it.
men cry, and when we cry, it's for a real purpose. Not saying that when you cry, it's not for a purpose, but you're not gonna see a grown man cry for nothing. You're not
Mm-hmm.
gonna see him cry because a window broke. You're not gonna see him cry because something didn't go right in his day, or the car broke down or stuff like that. It's got to hit home.
Yeah, yeah.
And for me, I was outside. We were living in Florida, and we were outside, and we were just chilling outside, and I was smoking a cigarette, and the doctor calls. So every time the doctor calls, I panic because she's in an incubator and we don't know
Right,
what's
right.
really going on. And it's fucking 9 in the morning, and we're getting this phone call at 9 in the morning. Doctor don't call me at 9 in the morning. The doctor normally calls me like at 1 in the afternoon on my lunch break to let me know, hey, she did good. This is your next step. And I was taking classes, CPR and parenting, and like harnesses for the car seat classes and all this other stuff I was doing to be able to make sure that I can bring her home fast. And I would just tell her every day, it's like, you take your time with what you got to do, and I'm going to rush what I have to do. Because when you're ready, you're ready.
Right.
And it was a Monday at 9 o'clock in the morning, bro. It was like, swear to you, it was 2 weeks before Easter on a Monday at 9 in the morning. I will never forget it. The doctor is like, hey, Isabel's doing great. She just finished eating her bottle. She took a bottle by mouth instead of through a tube through her nose. So that was their biggest step for her to come home, is to bottle feed.
Right.
And the doctor was talking and rambling, and all of a sudden I heard, are you ready to bring her home? Because you could bring her home Friday. And I just lost it, man. I was just in tears. And my baby mother's just looking at me and she's like, "You're always crying." Like, I'm like, "You don't understand. Like, for you, it's different because you have your own connection with her. For me, it's I'm finally bringing my daughter to home. Like, we're finally gonna make this a home.
Right, right.
You know? Like, we have all this stuff here, but no baby. You know." So I was like, you don't understand. I was so ecstatic. I called everybody, bro. I mean, I called my sister. I tried to call my mother. I tried to call my brother. I tried to call my dad, my stepmom, like everybody. And eventually, you remember Ben, right? Benny,
Ben.
Luke's son.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So I eventually called him because he's the godfather to my daughter. And he was like, "What's wrong, man? Like, what's going on?" And I'm like, "It's the baby, it's the baby, it's the baby." And he was like, "What happened? What happened?" I'm like, "I get to bring her home Friday." And he just starts crying with me on the phone, bro. And for me, it was, I knew why he was crying. Like, he was happy. Me and him grew up as brothers. So for me to be crying to him and be like, "Yo, my daughter's coming home," was more like his daughter's coming home.
Right,
So
right.
we got to share that with each other. But like, these are things for me, like, I'm not afraid to express anymore, you know, not just because you're family, it's just because as men, we need to learn how to be okay with how we feel.
No, definitely, man. There's a book that I listened to recently because I'm big on audiobooks. It's by Jason Wilson. It's called Cry Like a Man. That book changed me forever. It's an amazing book. Something that you should definitely do. I think every man, everybody, but especially every man should read that book because it really touched on a lot of topics. And that's a big thing is being able to be comfortable in their feelings and stuff. And so it's definitely a book I would recommend you to read. And I don't want to go back to because I know, like you said, that with the song and John Mayer. With my daughter, I remember one home when I was working at Cablevision. I was working like the night shift, so I'd be coming home at like 1 in the morning or something like that, like driving from Shelton. Um, and I was listening to NSYNC, and this I promise you started playing. And I just kept thinking about that song, and I was like, I'm gonna be all that for my daughter. Like that song is to me is my song to my daughter. And I came home, and my wife was like looking at me like, "Are you okay?" She see like the tears running down my face, and I just crawled into the bed and I went to her belly and I just started singing this song to my daughter. And I would sing that song to her constantly, constantly. And I would play that's our song. And I have it on like our playlist and stuff like that. One time I was giving my daughter a bath and stuff, and the song came on, and she goes, "Daddy, Daddy, it's our song." And she just came and she hugged me, and like I just started crying. Like I'm just like,
Yeah,
this means so much to me. Like it's unreal.
yeah, yeah. No, trust me, man. I know because for me and her, it's John Mayer's daughter,
Mm,
and the song's pretty much about how, as a man, you're supposed to love and cherish your daughter and treat her right because eventually she's going to try to find someone else to do the
right.
same, be her husband. And it's just, you gotta listen to it one day when you have a time. Just throw it on one day and you listen to it, you'll understand. And you being a dad, it'll hit you. Like, if you really focus in on what he's saying, it hits you because it's like everything you said right now, like everything you heard that song, you thought about her instantly, and you came home to her.
Right.
Nothing else mattered to you but her
Yep.
that moment because of how you felt. And that's what that song does for me. Like when I hear that song, I instantly think of my daughter. I instantly just want to be around her. And just every day is a surprise for me because she's so little. She doesn't know anything yet. Well, she knows, but she doesn't know exactly what she's doing. And it's a new adventure for me all the time. Like the other day, her and my mom, so my mom watches her at night for me,
Mhm.
and they hang out all day, like all night, from literally like 6 o'clock in the afternoon or the evening till I get home. They're when I came home tonight, my daughter was in her bed sleeping instead of in her own bed, and she does this thing. My mom goes, "I love you," and she shakes her head. She goes, "No," And my mom will go, "Oh, you don't love me?" And she'll fake cry. And then my daughter will look at her and go, "Ha ha ha." Like, so I know they have that little
Yeah. Yeah.
thing, and it just, no one else has that with her but my mom. Like, my mom has that thing with her, and then my sister has a different thing with her. Like, she has these connections with certain people that you will never understand. Like the bond they have is so unique with each individual person that they
Hmm.
interact with, you know. So like for me, when she sees me, it's instant, like, run to me, hug my leg, tell me to pick her up, rest her head on my shoulder, and she pats my back, you know. And to me, that's like her way of letting me know, like, everything's okay, like, we're good,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And
Yeah.
that gives me a sign of relief, just because that's like my fear for me, and this is probably for every dad, is to lose your child.
Hmm.
I had that fear the moment she was born, because they told us the chances of her living through the first 24 hours, like I told you, was like 40%.
Right.
And within the first 12 hours, she kicked off the CPAP machine that they had on her. She turned it off and was breathing on her own normally,
Mm.
you know? So, like, for me, every time she does that, I think of that day, and it's like, I know you're a fighter. I know I'm not have to worry about losing you, but now I have to worry about losing you in another way. And that's to your mom. And so, like, recently, I haven't really touched base with you about it, but so I've had my daughter since the day she was born.
Hmm.
When me and her mom split, she told me and my mother that she's gonna leave the baby with us because she was in better hands with us. She was going through her own battles and everything else that I'm not gonna touch on, because
Hmm.
I don't want to talk down on her, you know.
Yeah,
So I'm just,
definitely.
leave it as that. But um, like about almost a month ago, about 3.5 weeks ago, she I would always give her visitation. I was always letting her see her. I had no problem with that. She decided to keep my daughter and wouldn't let me come and get her. So my world flipped upside down. Like, I went through like this wild, crazy depression for like 3 weeks, bro. Like, crazy depression. Um, I would do everything and anything I possibly could to try to see her. Like, how about I just come over for a little bit after work? No, she's sleeping. Or, let me just come over right now. No, I don't trust you because you'll take her from me. And it was like, but you just did that to me.
Right.
Like, you just turned my biggest fear into a reality. You took her physically from me. So you took our daughter, who's in what her norm is, being around me and my mom pretty much all day, and with you for a few hours a day. And now you're not even allowing her to see me. A week goes by. She finally says, "I'll let you FaceTime us." I FaceTimed them. I said, "Hey, baby." She looked at the phone and ran to the front door thinking I was coming to pick her up. Bro, that broke my heart. So at that point, I told her, I was like, "You're going to leave me no choice. I'm going to have to fight you for full custody." And I went 2 times to the courthouse by myself to try to get it, and I was denied. My sister was like, "It's the shit, bro." Like, she was the shit. She came with me every single time I had to go fill out these paperwork, and we did it every day for a week. And I got denied every day for a week. And eventually she was like, "We're just gonna have to get a lawyer." And I was just like, "I don't got the money for it, I gotta figure this out." 3 days into having a lawyer, bro, I was at work on a Tuesday. My sister's blowing up my phone. I go outside for a cigarette. And she's like, yeah, you need to call me. Like I'm looking at all these text messages. You need to call me right now. So I was always like, how I think is always think the worst and pray for the
Right,
best.
right.
Um, she was like, you need to leave work right now. The judge signed your paperwork. You have emergency temporary custody, full custody of the baby. You need to go now and pick this up, and you can go knock on her door with the cops and get your daughter.
You was gone.
Bro, I went to my boss and I was in tears. I'm telling you, in tears. My boss was for 2 weeks was real disappointed in me because my motivation was so low. Like we have this at my job, when you're doing the best that you can be for
Right.
them, they call it being legendary. Um, he told me flat out, he's like, man, you normally hit excellence for us from the moment you walk in to the moment you leave. He goes, I can tell you don't want to be here. So I had to explain to him what was going on. And this is to a guy who has no kids. It's like to make him feel my pain, I had to explain it to him. Like,
Right.
and the day that I got that phone call, I went up to him. I was like, man, remember what I was telling you the other day, a couple days ago, how I haven't seen my daughter and I'm doing all this extra stuff and I'm spending all this money. And, he's like, yeah. I go, well, the judge just signed off on my papers, man. And just that one tear, and he was just like, go. I was like, I'll come back to work. He was like, you haven't seen your daughter in 2 weeks, man. Go. Don't worry about the day. Just go. I was like, all right, man, I
That's
really
real.
appreciate it. Like, I really do appreciate it. And I'm in tears leaving my job in tears. And I get into my car. I take a minute to refocus all my shit, like everything, like my anger, my hurt, my joy. I had to be that person that I don't want to be, but I had to suppress it. And I get to the lawyer's office, I get my paperwork, I call the cops, I wait for the cops like a block away from her house. I explain to the cops everything, I show them all the paperwork. Cop knocks on the door and she gives her back to me. Bro, I tried everything to not show her any emotion whatsoever. The moment that cop put my daughter back in my hands, bro, I lost it. I lost it. And I did tell her, and I should have never said it, but I was like, you'll never see her again in a day in your life. It's like, what you did to me is unexcusable, and I will make sure you feel what I feel for the rest of your life.
Right.
Said out of anger. But at that point in time, I really felt that because you took my fear and you went with it. Like, you knew my fear and you attacked it.
Yeah, and that's cool, man. Hold on, give me 1 second. My daughter just gotta come here. Yeah, so that's my little girl. That's my baby girl.
I just woke up about 20 minutes ago, but she was with my mom.
Um, but yeah, man, that's a real shitty situation you got to go through, man. And it's one of those things, man. And I talk about this constantly too in a couple of other podcasts. Is that the kid got nothing to do with it? You know what I mean? Keep them out of every situations, whatever. Got fear, animosity, and stuff like that. Keep the kids out of it. Like my dad, I got a brother, right? Different mom, but his mom would used to call up to the house and they would have a conversation on the phone and check in. Like my mom would go when we go to Puerto Rico over there, we would go pick them up at the house and they were always respectful. You know what I mean? Like I never seen them curse at each other, no animosity, no nothing, any of those things. My mom always said too, it's because he had nothing to do with it. It's not his fault. He didn't choose to be here. He didn't choose to be in a situation. He didn't want any of this. So he shouldn't have to deal with any of these consequences or deal with any of this negativity that exists. You know, and it's just so crappy that people do that. and take things a step too far. You know what I mean? Like you said that for your daughter, she you calling and thinks she's gonna pick you up. That's messing with her head. That's those are mind games and she's at such a young age where everything is they're soaking up everything as a sponge. This is most impactful times in their life. You know, but I'm glad that you're able to get that. And where do you stand on that right now? Like, is this just emergency custody, or you still gotta?
So on December 1st, I gotta go back to court because she filed for visitation, and I'm my mind is telling me be ruthless, but my heart is like it's not fair to her. It's not fair to my daughter that she doesn't see her mom.
Right, right.
So from now until December, I give her 2 days a week to see her. But because I have the emergency custody, she has to give her back to me at a certain time, like that I choose. So she had her today from 10 in the morning to 4 in the afternoon. She'll have her again on Monday from 1:30 to 7 at night. And that's just what I gave her, just to be nice. After putting me through 2.5 weeks of hell, you know. But my end goal is to be ruthless, to be honest with you. I'm not going to sugarcoat shit. I told you I was going to be real raw with you. That's my end goal is to take her. Like, I don't want to speak bad on her. I don't, but she's got a lot of mental issues she needs to work on her own. We all have our own battles. I got my own mental issues, but I have a control on it. You know what I'm saying? She doesn't. So I need to take her away from that environment before she picks up on those habits.
Right, and I think number one is that her safety and her well being is most important and all be all. Um, I understand being um I guess I don't know if you heard this the day I had posted a story about a snake in a fire. So a man comes across a snake in a fire and is burning to death, right? So he reaches into the fire to grab the snake to try to save his life, but the snake bites him. Pulls his hand back, thinks about it for a second, and he tries again. He tries several times, and each time the snake is biting him every single time. But he finally is able to get the snake out of the fire and set it free. Now, somebody in the distance was watching this whole thing goes down, and they approached the man and said, "Man, like that snake bit you like 6, 7 times. Why didn't you just let it lay there to die?" And the man looked at him and he said, "Well, it's the snake's nature to bite. It's my nature to help. I'm not going to let his nature change mine." You know, and I think that's the situation. It's like, I understand the shit that she put you through, and the trauma. Um, but don't let it change the character or the person that you are deep down. At the end of the day, your daughter has her mom. I think it's to be smart, definitely be smart and keep her safe and really do what is best in a child. Um, but I think it's that too. They're just trying to do what's best for her and understand that too. I mean, that is her mom. And you shouldn't allow. I know it's kind of probably like sadistic or like messed up coming from me because I'm not in that situation. But like I said, seeing it from my mom's point of view and that goes from my brother, you shouldn't let that affect that relationship. Because at the end of the day, she's always going to be her mom. You know, and I see, I didn't even see this from another aspect, right? Like my best friend, right? He has a brother a year younger than him. And their dad walked out and like real young. Was never around for them. And their mom was always there, raising them. But then recently, his younger brother's now like hanging out more with the dad, and now blaming the mom or like it's your fault that he wasn't around and this, that, or whatever, and creating unnecessary tension. He was gone. What happened happened. You can't change that. Can't live in the past. You just gotta understand they're both your parents and work through that situation the best you possibly can. You know what I mean? So I hear you know what I mean? Like I
You see, here's my thing. It's like when you say that, I shouldn't allow someone else's nature to change my nature. Makes me like second guess myself on a lot of things that I'm gonna be doing because it's like it's not it's not to be spiteful or vindictive. It's not. It's truly not. It's like I'll give you I'm willing to give her to visitations and everything when her mental is way better than what it is.
And that's fair. And that's fair.
You know,
Because
but
you got to make sure you again your daughter is in good hands. And that she's safe and that she's being protected regardless of what the relationship is. And especially for her too is I guess like kind of part of me is getting me wondering like what was your goal keeping her from you? Like what was the point of that? You know what I mean? Like what?
because so originally the problem was she wanted to have her spend the night, and where she lives isn't the safest neighborhood. I've had to take off of work multiple times because people were shooting over there. So I won't allow her to keep her overnight unless I spend the night. And she didn't want me to spend the night, and I didn't have a problem with not spending the night, but I didn't feel comfortable or safe for my daughter to not have me around. Um, for two reasons. One, I grew up on the streets. Like I told you, I grew up in the south end of Stanford. Like, I grew up on the east side of Stanford, but I always grew up in the south end. So I know how those people work. I know how their lingo is. I know when things are gonna pop off because I've been around it my whole life. And she doesn't. Like she doesn't understand that. Like, and I'm not trying to talk down on any race or anything, but she's a white girl. She's overprivileged from Florida. Like everything's peachy and sunny, and she doesn't get that her environment that she's in isn't good for her health, isn't good for her mental health or her well-being in general.
Right.
I understand that she can't afford to be anywhere else, um, but it's just not safe for the baby there, and she just didn't like it. So there was no custody agreement at the time, so she felt that she can just keep her whenever she wanted, and decided to not let me get her back.
Right. Right. Well, no, I definitely understand that, and that's something that I think again all that works in your favor. You know what I mean? Understanding that because overall it's about the safety of the child. It doesn't matter who does what, where. It's about the safety of the child. And I think it's probably in that point too, like you say, have that to protect you to get your child back and get her back and make sure that she's safe, and not at risk for somebody. Um, but I wouldn't say, like you said, like ruthless or I know like you definitely are hurt and she needs to understand that. But I think just like they say, at the end of the day, remember that there is your daughter's involved, and that's her mom, and let her make her own decisions about her. You know what I mean?
As she gets older, I do want her to, like, for me, for instance, like as I got older, I realized, like, I don't really need my biological dad because I have a dad at home who raised me and taught me everything pretty much that I know. I will let her get to that point when she's old enough to understand what's going on. Right now, all she knows is I'm always there.
Right, right,
And things go wrong for her, no matter where I'm at in the house, she she falls. She'll run to me. Um, in the morning time, she knocks on my door to like because my mom watches her overnight for me because I get home so late. Um, she'll knock on the door and she'll keep knocking until I answer it, and then say, "Hey, Dada," and then pick me up. And then from that time on, I'm with her. So it's like that's the norm for her, you know? Like you just changed up her whole routine for 2 weeks and just like you said, turned her world upside down. But not only did that, like all the progress I was doing on getting a sleep schedule and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
doing all this stuff like potty training and everything, like you flushed all that hard work down the drain. And
Yeah.
that's not easy work.
No, I hear that. I got the lot from my family too for a while, like, because I know I'm raising my kids different than they raised us,
Yeah.
you know. And one of those things is like that I don't do, you know what I mean, like Christmas parties, stuff like that. Like, oh, just stay here till late, and I'm like, I'm not here till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna have my child sleep in somebody's random bed and wait till I decide to go home because I want to sit here and have no. She got a bed. She got a home. They in bed 8 o'clock every night. So 7:30 is probably the latest I'm gonna be here. And it's like, oh, you always leaving early. They got a sleep schedule. Like, y'all not the ones that's gonna be up all night with them. If they wake up in the middle and do all this and that stuff like that, it's hard. Like if my son don't take a nap in the middle of the day, he cranky and it's just a lot to deal with for the rest of the day. But everybody's like, oh Lord, this here. No, I'm going home. He's gonna take his nap. Like, and then they got to the point now where they understand. Like, I go to my sister's house on the weekends, or my mom's house. I'm like, yeah, about 1 o'clock, I'm leaving on my way home because this is his nap time. So yeah, I can come see me afterwards or whatever, but I'm going home.
Yeah.
You know,
But that's structure,
yeah, yeah, and it's
goes
important to have. It's very important to have. And it was I said this with somebody else in this other podcast when it came to these kids. This is important, like about like instant gratifications or certain things or having structure in place, right?
yeah.
So there was a group of kids, and they did what's called a marshmallow experiment, right? So I left the kids in the room, and they said, "Hey, listen, there's a marshmallow here on the table for all of you guys. You could have one now, or you could wait, 5 minutes till we come back, and you'll have two marshmallows." So they left. Some of the kids ate the marshmallow right away. A few of the other kids, they decided to wait to get the two marshmallows. Now they followed these kids for years and years and years, and they realized that the kids who had that self control and were able to wait, who had that better structure, were a lot more successful in their lives than the other ones. They're looking for that instant gratification or all those things during those days. So all that, is very important and plays a huge role in child development. So having a certain structure, having a certain pattern, all those things is very, very key in the success of your child. If you
Yeah.
want to do that. So, definitely like she has to understand that and realize that and then put that into effect. And be respectful for that and know their flaws. Like you said, it's people got to be willing to make the changes to fix themselves, like you did. You found the pieces of the puzzle that I made you to help you get closer to get a better place. You made that decision to yourself to improve, and you're able to do that. Everybody's has to be held accountable for their own actions and who they are and what they do, and at the same time, like you say, also have to suffer the consequences. Because of her actions and what she want to do now. She in a custody battle. And has to deal with. You setting limitations of what's going on with your child. And that is that's gonna suck for her. No matter how you put it, you know what I mean. Like it's gonna suck for her because now she got no choice. Before it was slick, and there's nothing in writing and stuff. But now there's a whole process and stuff. So, um, you know, it just goes back to that. To just be mindful about your daughter and like not making her suffer either because of what somebody else did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, But I know that we've been wrapping up for a minute, man. I guess it's always usually an hour or so. But I got two more questions for you, right? So for you, what do you feel has been the best advice you've ever received?
Like I told you earlier, man, it's got to be from my pops. It's like go for the home run, even though you might get out instead of hitting that line drive and getting on base. It's like it's like don't be afraid to fail because with failure, you're bound to succeed because you learn from that failure.
Okay, okay. Now, and for you, going through like your life experience and everything that you've gone through, to somebody who may be following your footsteps, you're going the same path you went through. What is some advice that you would give to them?
Oh man, if you're following in my footsteps, stop. Just stop. Like, take a second to evaluate what you're really doing. Take that time to like literally take that 1 to 2 seconds to really think of, is that more important to you than anything, or is your safety more important to you than anything? Because no matter what you do, you got to always make sure that you're safe. And it doesn't matter what you're doing in life, like you and your podcast, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is your passion, this is what you want to do, but you took that second or two to evaluate it to make sure that it's something that is productive for your life. And not everybody does that. I sure as hell didn't do it until I got older. And now I'm more focused on that than ever on what I do because I take that time. So I would definitely tell somebody or anybody, just like take a take a second, breathe, just make sure that what you're doing is productive for your life and not counterproductive. Because once it becomes counterproductive in your life, it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it goes back to controlling your feelings and your emotions, right? And I've come to, like, a lot of times, like, if I get into arguments with my wife or whatever and stuff like that, because it happens. But I take a moment, or, like, I get real quiet, I don't say anything, and she's just like, what's going on? It's like, I'm really in my feelings right now. I mean, I'm really angry, or I'm really feeling a certain kind of way, and I don't want to say nothing that I'm going to regret later, or come off wrong. So I just need to take a moment to really understand what I'm feeling before I say anything. You know what I mean? Because I can't take it back. I mean, you can't undo it.
That's the situation I'm in with my baby mom because we are both two high-headed people, and once I get to that point where that switch is flicked, I'm no longer speaking with my mind. I'm speaking out of emotion, and I will say some hurtful things sometimes out of just out of anger, and I've expressed that to her. It's like, yeah, sometimes I did say that, but that was out of anger. Like today, she texted me and she's like, I gave you opportunity to come and talk to me about everything. And then I was like, my response to her was, there's nothing to talk about. You left her with me. That was that. So I have final say. And she didn't like that. So out of her mouth was, well, I'm talking to some dude. Okay. Was that supposed to hurt me?
Right.
Like, you're posting it on social media. Like, I know this. I know the dude you're fucking. You don't know I know him, but he knows I know him. Now, do you think he didn't come to me as a real man and ask me if it was okay? Yeah, he did. And I told him to his face, you are more than welcome to do whatever you want with her. She's an adult. You're an adult. Just know there's a reason why I'm no longer with her, and you will find that out on your own. Enjoy. But then yet, she goes through my social media and she sees that I'm talking to someone. And I start getting 16 messages in a minute, paragraphs. Oh, I don't want her around my kid. You don't have that say.
Right.
It's like, one, I'm not going to just have any random girl around my child. But two, you don't have that say because what if it gets serious? You're going to tell me I'm not allowed to get married? You're going to tell me I'm not allowed to have another child? Like that's her fear. Her fear is like her biggest thing is not having family or somebody moving on, and that's her fear. And I'm not talking to someone to play on her fear.
Right.
I,
Moving
I
all my
have to
life.
find my happiness. And not saying this one is my happiness, but I'm content with what we have so far. And I look forward to seeing what it could be. And that's what makes her fearful the most because she's afraid that someone else is going to take her place. And not as a mom. She's worried about someone taking her place in my heart. And like I told you, like I'm always gonna have feelings for her. I'm always gonna love her. She gave me my first child. Um, but
And that's the thing. You could always have love for somebody, but not be in love with them. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not even that. Like I said earlier to you, it's like she brought me back to being a person that I don't like being. You know, and it's only towards her. It's not
mm-hmm.
towards anybody else. It's only towards her. And when I see her or I hear her voice, it's just black. There's like empty space to me. And even when I had to see her today, like I heard her saying something, but all I heard was Charlie Brown teacher. Like what? And like she's like, you're not even paying attention. I was like, I don't have to pay attention to you no more. I was like, that's the beauty of this whole situation you brought upon yourself. It's like, I don't gotta listen to you. There is no more conversations. Like the conversations you need to have, you need to speak to my lawyer because that's what I pay him for. To talk to you so I don't have to. You know, you could have just gave me my daughter back. We could have talked then. You brought the hell. I didn't bring this. You brought it. You made me put the man in between us. And now the man's gonna work in my favor, hopefully, because you fucked up. You withheld the child from me. I didn't never do it to you.
Right, right.
But
You know, it is what it is, man. But you know, I think those are two good points. You know, it's everybody is like you said. You know, shoot for the moon. You know what I mean? Even if you fall short, you land once a star. So always go for that home run, and definitely, you know, for everybody listening, to all these young kids, man, really take a second to think about your actions. You know, just take a split second, think twice, and reevaluate. And if you feel you can deal with the consequences that may come with that, go for it. But understand that there's consequences and things and stuff that you have to deal with for every action, especially things that come out of anger or things that are said in with um, just full of emotion and not a lot of logic. You
definitely,
know. So wrap this up, man. Thank you for spending time with me. And of course, as always, like I tell everybody, man, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, your big brother loves everybody. Stay blessed.
definitely, bro.